Okay, and 3, 2, 1, and go.
Welcome to the Gary and Kenny Show. I'm Gary Kroger coming to you from America's Heart. And I'm joined by Kenny Seisler, who's coming from America's Calabasas. How are you, Ken?
We have not been named as a body part yet.
Not yet.
I'm well. I'm good. Quickly, I want to talk about masturbation. I think that's...
Well, of course.
You know.
Well, I have to say something.
Well, and cue our guest. All right,
So,
I'm going to
listen,
introduce
first of all-
Richard Kind in a moment, but there's Richard
Okay,
Kind.
I want to hear
All right.
what Ken has to say about masturbation.
All right, first
I
of all...
actually don't
Challenge
wanna
you
hear
in
it.
any way.
Okay. I'm 67 years old. I'm
Okay.
still whacking the Wendell. Okay? I didn't really think, when I saw my father, my grandfather, whatever, the idea that they were masturbating at that age, it never even occurred to me. I
Right.
thought at some point I would stop. Well, I haven't. And I still enjoy it.
Okay.
I'm now a grandfather. My grandson was sleeping over. Nobody was in the house but me and the grandson. And I got a little frisky.
What?
I
Not
wanted
because of the
to jerk off.
Okay, just because...
Would
you're
you
kind
jerk off knowing that your grandson was in the house?
No.
No, of course
Oh,
not. I couldn't
yes.
do it. You
Of
would?
course
Yes.
I would.
Oh, wow.
Why?
I couldn't. I was like too freaked out.
Well, I
No,
mean, if you're in another room and the door is locked,
Well, I get it, but you know,
you can be
I
away
honestly-
moving. It doesn't matter.
I honestly couldn't masturbate when my son was a baby in the crib. I felt so like, oh, I'm this cretin who's given, brought this beautiful thing into the earth, and I'm just like, I couldn't do it.
I wonder what's the oldest man who's ever masturbated? They don't have a record of that. Do they?
He died 5 minutes ago.
He died, but yes. I read his book. They're called Dangly Doggy Balls.
Okay, now I have a question, Ken, because
Yes.
I say I know you, but I don't know you.
Yes.
In the picture I see on the far left of the dresser behind you
Mhm.
is a picture of a woman with long flowing hair.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid she's your daughter. And I'm
Oh,
going to
no,
talk.
that is my daughter.
That's your daughter.
Right there. Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know whether or not that was your wife or
Oh, no.
your wife.
That's my daughter.
Okay, because
No.
she's attractive. Are
But
you
let's
still
talk.
married?
Yes, she's married. She is
No,
the
no,
mother
are
of my.
you married?
She is. I am
Mother
married.
of the
But
little
that's the-
child you won't
that's
masturbate
my-
around.
Yeah, that's my daughter's son. Is
One is
No,
just
Kenny, I have a
one
personal
who
question for you.
what?
Kenny,
Yes.
your wife watches our program. What would be her reaction about your
No, not good.
frequent
Not good.
masturbation?
Not good. Not good. Oh, she's going to be so mad at me. I can't
Really?
believe you said that. Well, she's going to even be mad at me for thinking about jerking off within, 15 miles of my grandson. That will upset her. That I would
Okay,
even
all right.
consider whacking off
Yeah.
when the kid was in the vicinity.
Well, but is the door locked?
Yeah, I have all of the safeguards.
Yeah, then absolutely. I mean, would you make love if your children were in the house?
You know, me and my wife are still talking about that. Yes, we would. Yes,
Well, of
that's true.
course. Well, that's actually more of a visual than you can always hide masturbation and go, oh, how are you? And just, go up your underwear or your pajamas if you pull, but the two-backed horse or the horse with the two backs or whatever, the animal with two backs is much harder to hide.
Well, I will say thank you, Richard, for the. I feel much better now.
Yes. Well,
But it's how I would feel. I have not been in that position because I don't have a grandchild.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But,
yes. Well, let me officially introduce our guest today on Jerk Talk.
Yes.
Yes.
Masturbating maven.
Well, we are talking, of course, to Richard Kind. Now, I met Richard. I can't even do the math here. It was 1976. I think we were doing the WAMU show, which is the big Northwestern variety show. I think that's the first time we worked together, Rich. We started similar paths in a way, practical theater company, Second City, but over the past 30 years, really since about 1990, correct me if I'm wrong, 91, Richard Kind has become literally a working actor's working actor. His credits are in television, films, animated films,
Name
Broadway.
all 253, Gary. Go ahead.
We counted your credits, 253. The Carol Burnett Show, and I want to talk about that in the early 90s. That led to Mad About You, to Spin City. You've been doing Curb Your Enthusiasm for the last 10 years. You've been a character in A Bug's Life, Cars
I was only
2.
kidding, Gary, about doing every single one.
but Toy Story 3, he's been nominated for a Tony.
Oh,
Ladies
stop.
and gentlemen, yes, enough already. Please welcome Richard Kind.
Yay, Richard.
Thank you. Enough of that.
Yes.
Let's talk about masturbation.
All right, we're back.
Which I think we're kind of doing a little bit of form of right
a little
now.
bit for me.
Yeah.
Look, that's masturbation for me.
Well, let me talk about when I met Richard.
Go ahead.
Does this have to do with masturbation?
Well, I don't know, but this is going to be tough to get masturbation
This
out
is going to
of
be
the
tough
show.
to edit,
It's
isn't it?
You did an episode of Even Stevens,
Yes.
Uncle Chuck.
Yes, with my friend and Gary's friend, Tom Virtue.
That's right. I was the director.
No, you weren't.
I was. And you sat next to me while we were at the video monitor, and we were doing a scene with Shia,
Yeah.
and Shia was doing a bit, and you leaned over to me and said, "This kid is good. He's got something."
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, it's true. Yes, if you go to your IMDb
Yeah.
and you click on Uncle Chuck, I'm the director.
No kidding. No
Yeah.
kidding.
I
Wow.
can't believe
Did
you
you
don't
direct
remember.
a lot of those?
You didn't come out of it going, "Oh my God, that was the greatest director to
Oh
work
my
with.
God.
I gotta work with him
There's
again."
Kazan, and then there's
Seisler.
Seisler. Thank you.
Now, Richard, I want to go back to your intuitive self, okay? Now, I remember you in we were friends, but we didn't hang out. We had lots of close mutual friends. You did the practical theater after I went to New York with Brad and Julia and Paul.
You guys were actually instrumental in why I am where I am today. If you
We'll get into that then. But here's the thing, Rich. You were in the theater department, and you were very talented and very funny and a real character. But
I wasn't in the theater. I wasn't in the theater department.
But you did theater.
I did.
And we would talk, and I really thought that your destiny, I thought you told me you're taking over Dad's jewelry business. I thought that you were going to lead a very straight and narrow life back in Trenton, New Jersey,
Yes.
where you're from. So I'm at SNL, and then I'm in Los Angeles, and suddenly, Richard Kind, I hear about doing Second City, and you became literally a scholar of improvisation. You just embraced it, and it lived through you to where you could teach. I mean, just tell me a little bit about the sort of metamorphosis.
Everything you just said needs a little explanation. Okay.
Okay.
Meaning you were wrong.
I am certainly not a scholar of improvisation. I was a practitioner because I went from the theater that you started. Let's start with the beginning. The theater you started, Practical Theater, when you guys went to SNL, I used to see you in the city, and I went to parties, and you said, "Why don't you invited Birch to go out to open a show?"
Yeah.
And I asked if I could. You invited Birch. I imposed myself on you guys. I went out with Birch on January 2nd. We drove out to Chicago. We were all excited. I read Something Wonderful right away. We were all excited. I had never improvised before, and we created that show called Megafun.
Megafun.
The night that it opened, Bernie Solins saw the opening night and told Birch and myself to see him in his office the next day. We came in, and he offered us a job on the main stage, not even in touring company.
I never knew.
And
that.
I said, I don't improvise. Now, Birch improvised because he did the Meow Show, but I had never improvised before. And I said, I don't improvise. And he just went, "You'll learn." In any case, I went into Second City. Birch eventually got fired. I remained for about 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And I learned. I learned in front of an audience. And for 1.5 years, I really sucked. Then I became better. And then for about 1 year, I was the guy, the star in Chicago of Second City. But I was always a good actor. And I found out it's good if you're a good improviser. If you're a good actor, it's nice to know about improvising. But in order to be a good improviser, you got to be a good actor. And so I was a good actor. And I was a mediocre improviser. And there were much funnier people than me. I'm a reactor. That's where I really learned how to react. And I have a rubbery face, and I could react and get my laughs on that. you know, and you say fuck in White Castle and you get a laugh.
Wow.
And then,
But it is interesting that you said that you learned a lot just by doing it. It's not. There are games and things you fall back on. Is that basically what happens with improv?
Well, yes, I can fall back on, but I don't like to say that because I knew what to fall back on. I would constantly try and challenge myself. And by challenging myself, I would say, don't go for the laugh. Don't try and be successful that night. Let's stay in the scene and try and create a scene. There's a famous story, I don't know whether it's apocryphal, but where when Paul Sills was directing Second City, the actors went out and they had a great scene. And he comes in the next night and he says, go out, I want you to do the same scene, but if it gets one laugh, I'm cutting it. And they go out. The next night, go out, do it, but if it gets one laugh, I'm cutting it. And he did this for about 5 or 6 successive nights. If it gets one laugh, I'm cutting it. Finally, he came backstage. He said, okay, go out, do it, and make it funny.
Wow.
So that is the school that I am more from. I think the Groundlings are much funnier and much more character-driven than I am. I think that's Groundlings, UCB. Those are much greater wits than I could ever be. And they started out funny and are so free that they can create scenes. I'm good. I can hold my own. I am not. What did you call me? A master, a scholar?
Well, yeah, I was just looking for superlatives. You know, I was fishing there. But
no superlatives. Well, and I will tell you this. I will teach beginning improv, but I will not teach other improvers because I am afraid that I'm going to get a Robin Williams in there. And by teaching him the rules and how to stay in that, I will suppress that magical talent. And so I don't teach improv.
I think, and I don't want to talk about me, but I do think that that's my approach too. I was never the goofy, funny person. I always approached it, even if practical, as an actor.
Right.
But Richard, the first time I saw you on the Second City stage is when you came out and you created Second City in Los Angeles. Okay. That's the first time, and I went, holy shit.
That was good.
Richard now is there with the big boys, just, you know, at the top of your game.
I was. That was after 4 years in Chicago. And then I was supposed to open the original company in Santa Monica, which I thought once I get to Hollywood and I'm on the stage, just the golden chariots will arrive and I'll ride into Universal or MGM or Paramount and do it. And they promised me a spot. And then he took me, Andrew Alexander, who I love today, but not that night, took me to the Palm and told me that I was not going to open in the first company in Santa Monica after having been promised for over a year. And my greatest regret was that I didn't order a lobster because I was taught don't order the most expensive thing. Yes. And fuck Andrew Alexander, and I should have ordered a lobster, but I didn't. Wow. Andrew has since that time, it took him a little while, but has become one of the most generous, most giving, and he turned a corner. He learned his lesson from Joyce Sloan, who used to be the mother of Second City.
I knew her well.
And Andrew was changed. He used to be Scrooge, and Andrew changed into Scrooge on Christmas Day, where he gives the kid a shilling and says, "Go buy the biggest turkey." He became a heavenly angel. He is a wonderful man. And of late, he's been getting. I've been reading some of that. Yeah, so he's been getting bad mouth, and he should not.
Yeah, I know.
He was a very gracious and great man.
Richard, so early 90, 91. This is when the corner started to turn. This is when I'm hanging out with Virtue a little bit. Virtue and I are doing theater, improvisational theater, some of it, at the Tamarind Theater. And I run into Jeff Garland, who's really no one at this point, and we all bonded with our Richard Kind impression.
All right, yeah, stand in line, get in line.
Yeah, right.
I saw you on something recently where you said, maybe it was Jeff, there's a catchphrase.
Yes, there is.
What is it?
What that is? That's I think
the commish.
Yeah, I'm doing a commish. The reason, if you ever want to do an imitation of me, I was at a poker game, and they wanted to know, was I going to play the next Monday night? I was supposed to go to Vancouver because I had a recurring role on the commish. So they said, are you going to play next Monday? And I said, I can't. I'm doing a commish. And if you say that, it has all of the vowels and consonants that enable, and I can't do a Richard Kind impression.
We should do a contest. We should have people come on and do that line.
Right.
I'm standing with Jeff Garland at an audition. I don't remember what it was. And he was from Chicago. And so we're talking. And he does, I'm doing a commish. And I said, that's not my Richard Kind catchphrase. You know what mine is? Her tits were mammoth.
Really?
Yeah. And I made Jeff laugh.
Really,
I
rarely use the word tits. I would use the word mammoth. I rarely use the word.
Perhaps I paraphrase. Her breasts were mammoth.
That I would use. Her breasts were mammoth.
Well, that's what it'll be from now on.
Okay.
Well, I scrolled down on your IMDb to see, and boy, it's a long scroll because you got a lot of credits.
It's a long scroll.
And not all of it is choice. So let me tell you.
Nevertheless, the first one or the last one on the scroll was Nothing in Common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were uncredited in that, it said. What did you do in that? And did you meet Gleason?
All right. Here's a story about that because you bring up something. I got stories about everything.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Okay. I'm at Second City. And Gary Marshall comes to see Second City and the ETC space to get a group of improvisers to work with Tom Hanks in the advertising group that he used in the movie. Well, I was big stuff at Second City when Gary Marshall came, and I was pretty good. Everybody was chosen. About 6 to 8 people were chosen, and I was not. And my heart was broken. Look, all I'm telling you are these sad Second City stories. I couldn't read Second City. I was not chosen. I found out later that because I was so strong in the show, Joyce and Bernie didn't want to lose me for those couple of months.
Oh.
And therefore, they took other people from that cast, and they took people from the ETC, and I was not chosen. So I got one uncredited part in Nothing in Common. And what I had to do was improvise a scene talking to 2 people about Tom Hanks and how we were going to get the thing. But the other 2 people were not permitted to talk because they were background people and I was going to be a principal. So I had to make up stuff I just told you, I'm a reactive actor. I don't make up funny lines. And here I am talking to these people, and I don't know what the hell to say. All they had to say is, are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I'm sure. But give me an emotion. I don't know. But I had nothing to react off of. So I'm just talking to these 2 people. I was dreadful. And so all they have is me. You can hear me in the background talking, and Hanks points out that I'm the competition, and that's all I did.
Did you ever see? What about Gleason? Do you have any stories about Gleason?
I did not.
Okay.
I wish I could.
Yeah.
I wish I could say I did.
Yeah.
Richard, we're going to jog back even further in your life.
Go ahead. Yeah, okay.
We have another mutual friend, and I happen to think that this person is the nicest human being on the planet.
This is your life, isn't it?
This is your life, but you just have to tell me who it is. Here's what he wrote to me. We did a production of West Side Story at Charles Bam Middle School.
Charles Bam.
Bam, right.
Is this
Middle
Robert
School.
Curtis Brown?
Yes, of course it is. Anyway, he said, during a scene where Doc, you confront the Jets in the drugstore after they assaulted Anita, very dramatic, Rich got a fit of the onstage giggles. So there are 10 14-year-old boys and one hilarious 15-year-old, you, Doc, who brought a whole new interpretation to that emotional scene. Needless to say, his laugh is infectious. Say hi. And he's also a great poker player. And he wants me to ask you about
he's wrong about that. Let me tell you about Robert. First of all, I can't believe I got the giggles back then. Jesus, I am notorious for getting the giggles. Let me tell you about Robert Curtis Brown. He was and is a great actor and a great actor.
Handsome, nice. Love that guy.
Like you said, handsome. So, Mr. Roach who was head of the drama department. Not Mr. Kelly, who was head of the speech department, but Mr. Roach, head of the drama department, director of Harvey, which I was in and everything. He said, his advice to me was, do not become an actor. Because literally, I'm putting in words that he would have eventually gotten to. I wasn't good looking enough. I wasn't what Hollywood wanted. Robert Curtis Brown now, he should go out to Hollywood. I should not. And I certainly don't hold it against Rob, because he's a great guy. And he went to Yale. I don't know where he went undergrad, but he went to Yale grad school. But I've since seen since Mr. Roche, and I will never bring that up to him. But if he ever listens to this, fuck you.
That's unbelievable.
No.
He certainly owes you a lobster dinner.
That's not good advice. You shouldn't say that to anybody.
You know
That's
something? Yes, it is. And I'll tell you why. Because I will tell any actor, if there's anything you can do, if there's any reason not to be an actor, choose it. Do not be an actor. And if you don't listen to me, you have made your own bed. And Alec Guinness's acting teacher told him the same thing. Do not be an actor. You don't have it. And Alec Guinness said, fuck you, and became one of the great actors of the world. I'm not going to say I'm one of the great actors of the world, but in essence, I said, Mr. Roche, I hear what you're saying. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go try it. Frank Galati sort of told me the same thing. I asked him, I said, I really want to be an actor, but my dad wants me to go into the jewelry store in Princeton, New Jersey. I want 2.5 kids and a nice life and stuff like that. And he said, well, why don't you be a producer? So then you get, the business world. And I said, no, you don't understand. I either want to be an actor, which is my passion, or I want to make money and have a nice life. And he said, well, if you want to be an actor, just go and work hard, and you're not going to get any work until you're 32, 33, because you're a character actor and you're not what Hollywood wants. And so I went to New York and did a lot of work for 4 years. Then I went and got a real education being on stage at Second City. And the minute I left Second City, I came out to LA. I came out in there in September, and by October I had a series.
Yes.
So I wasn't 33, but I was maybe 31.
Yeah, and go check Alec Guinness's IMDb. There aren't 253 credits.
No, there are not. But there is an Academy Award.
Yeah, well, there's that. And now, so you're back there. You're in LA, and I go to LA, and I'm there for a few years. Richard's there. You're living with George Clooney. I'm curious where you and George got together. You invited
George
me.
was living with me.
Well, George was living. That's right. And so you invite me to a Super Bowl party. It's like 85 or something like that. And there's George. He's with Kelly Preston. They're cuddling on the couch.
Okay,
and we got to know each other a little bit. A few weeks later, I find myself at a birthday party. You're probably there, and George is there, and he remembered me. And he wasn't anybody then. Maybe he was doing Roseanne.
He
said, "Hey, Kroger, how you doing?" I go, "Well, I got some auditions. Wow. How you doing, George?" And George said, I got some stuff, but he said my range is B to B minus. That was his self-deprecating.
So, Richard, how did you meet George and become roommates?
What'd you say?
What is the story behind you and George meeting and becoming roommates?
First of all, my funny line is I knew George for so long. I knew him before he was a good actor. I knew him when he was a young actor. This is years before he was a good actor. Right. He and I were cast. Okay, I will tell you. He came to second. He was doing a show in Chicago called Vicious, based on Sid Vicious. And he came to Second City one night with his cast. He came on a Saturday night. Now, I'm on stage for 2.5 hours. He's looking at me. I don't know who's in the audience, and he certainly wasn't George Clooney then. So I don't see him. And then they come backstage, and we talk and everything like that, and we meet him. And we went out for drinks. I went out for drinks with him. And I remember going out for drinks with him and playing pool. But if you asked me who he was, or he could knock me on, down in the street, I wouldn't know who the hell he was. Mm-hmm. About a year later, I get cast in a pilot. Gary, do you remember this name? Tom Bird.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that name?
Yeah.
Because I bet you went up against him on a lot of stuff.
Well, he was taller and more like, you know,
he was a
Tom
real
Brady
leading
than
man.
me.
Yes,
But
he
yeah,
was a real leading man.
good-looking guy.
Yes, he gets cast in the pilot. They bring me in. I get cast opposite him as his brother, and I wipe the stage with him. He can't keep up with me.
Was that the Elvis-y kind of thing where he was a singer?
No,
Wasn't he a singer? No.
No. That
Right,
was
forget
it was a thing called the Bennett brothers.
Okay.
Okay, it was written by a guy named Lloyd Garber, and who's he? What's from? The guy. He was a brilliant guy. Oh God!
I need more information.
NBC head. He was below.
Brandon Tartikoff?
Tartikoff. He was Tartikoff. This was Tartikoff's idea, and he asked Lloyd Garber to write it. Tom was cast, and then I was cast. Tom couldn't keep up with me, and was fired. They needed somebody. On Friday afternoon, he gets fired. I get a call that George Clooney, who I don't know, is going to come in and take his place. George was in Kentucky at his sister's wedding, flies in Sunday night, Monday morning. He comes in with open arms because, Rich, remember?
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't know who he was.
Uh-huh.
And he reminds me who he was. And okay, yeah, but I didn't remember it all. But we hit it off. We became very good friends because we had a bond, which was, let's make this pilot great. We were brothers. And, you know, when you work on set, you hear about on-set romances, and then they become marriages, and then they break up. Ours became a marriage, but we were friends, and we didn't break up. Our politics were the same. Our love of film was the same. Our senses of humor were the same, and we bonded on trying to make this show the best, and we really became very dear friends. Needless to say, he is a superior man.
So at what stage did it become, hey, let's move in together?
When he got divorced.
And he had the pig, right? The potbelly pig?
No. He got divorced from Talia Balsam.
Yeah.
And
so this was like the Odd Couple situation.
It really was. I mean, it to be honest, well, why would it be the Odd Couple? How do you know I'm clean or dirty? How do you know?
I meant only as far as the opening. The opening of the Odd Couple starts with Felix getting thrown out of his house.
Yeah, but I lived.
And knocks that was the only similarity I was drawing.
Okay, yes. So he left his wife. He needed a place to stay. And he stayed with me for a couple of months, and it was great. And that's where the famous cat litter story came from, and stuff like that. And
which is 100% true.
100. Well, 98% true. I never took the cat to the vet.
That's a big part. That's a big part.
I know, it's very funny. And the cat did not, but the cat did not go to the bathroom, and I kept wondering what's going on. I was worried about him, and then one day he was a big shit in the cat litter box. But his telling of the story is hilarious. And believe that.
When I looked up, when I was looking up, just to check out, on your interviews and things that you've done, when you go to YouTube, there's immediately everything says the cat story, the cat story, the cat story. So it tells the cat story, cat story. So I tell anybody who's going to be listening now, just go online and put in the cat story.
It's been online now. He tells it all over.
Yeah. Right. And
he tells it magnificently.
Yes, he tells the cat story well.
One thing about George is he at a table. I've seen Don Rickles do this, where he makes each person seem special, as if he's telling them the story or he's talking directly to them. George can do the same thing, and for somebody who you should be kowtowing to because he is a star, because he's so smart, because he's so gracious. Instead, he makes sure that you are. That's how gracious a man.
Well, he was best man at your wedding. I was there.
He was best man at my wedding, right? Yeah. I mean, but not because he was famous or he was my best friend.
You're right. Yeah.
I love George. I am. More than in the past years, I've realized I have been, and I'm not just talking about the $1 million thing. I have been the recipient of a greater greater portion of the friendship. I think I'm a great friend to him, of course, and I am a good and loyal friend. But the advice he's given, the friendship, hearing him talk, he is in on things that I'm not privy to, and he includes me in on them, and it's fascinating, and I just love being his friend.
He's amazing to watch. He doesn't make many missteps. I think people like to hear that he's authentic. So anyway,
they do. As a matter of fact, I have to give another authentic thing is I have to give a testament to his partner, his producing partner, Grant Heslov, who's a dear friend. And when they won a Best Picture for Argo, which was produced by George and by Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck directed it, the world wants to see George or Ben get up and say thank you for this Best Picture award. But George told everybody that if they win Best Picture, Grant accepts the award. He's the one who holds the statue because he's really the one who did the work in producing it. And indeed, Grant is the one who held the Oscar.
He clearly is gracious. So, Richard, so you're kind of doing your thing. Richard's in town, or we're all just kind of treading water. And I hear you're doing the Carol Burnett show. This is '91.
Yes.
And I remember you said, Carol loves me. So tell me a little bit about that, because I see that as sort of the beginning of this phase of Rich on TV.
All right. Well, you're not right.
Okay.
When I came out, George told me to come out to LA, and it took me months and months. I was very scared about leaving Second City because I had stability there. I had a job, and I enjoyed it. It was easy. Of course, every actor has to move forward or else you die. So my step of going out there, I finally bit the bullet, and I moved out there. And I got a show that was a show called Unsub. And you go, Unsub, what? I call it Unsub, what? Unsub. Unsub was the first of the procedurals to ever be on the air. What we now know as CIS or NCIS.
Yeah, I kind of remember it.
Criminal Minds. I did a little Criminal Minds.
This was the very, very first. You must understand. It was produced by Cannell. It was all about a serial killer. It was based on the book Manhunter, which the villain of Manhunter was Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
So it's based on that, on the FBI group that chased serial killers. I think it was Brandon Tartikoff, thought that he was getting another A-team and a fun thing. Well, the first episode was all about a cobbler who made women's shoes, and he would put a razor blade in the heel, and they would try the shoe on. They would bend over in pain. He would stab them in the back of the neck with an awl. Now, that is this typical stuff of Criminal Minds nowadays. But in 1990 or 89, that was not what they want. Or no, 93. That was not what they wanted. That was gruesome. And, the TV was not 800 channels. It was 4. And Tartikoff was outraged at what he was watching, so it was over in 11 episodes. But that was a drama. And I made sure that the first thing I did out of Second City was a drama, so that because I knew Second City would get me into comedies. So I said, no, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do comedy.
Smart.
So I did this gruesome show. And Peter Roth, who worked for Cannell and then went to work for Warner Brothers, which produces Criminal Minds and all those things, whenever he sees me, he goes, Rich, we were the first. We were the first, but we got canceled. But needless to say, I don't get hired for the procedurals anymore. But that was the first. I then did.
But you could play Mandy Patinkin now.
I could do it all. I begged them to do me. I don't understand why.
I do like the Hemingway look here. This is for a part.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
and
it looks good.
Who's the great, wonderful Belzer? Richard Belzer. I could play the Belzer role in anything. And I begged them. I'm begging them. Please, please, please. It's what I want to do. I want to do single camera. I don't want to do the 4-camera comedy. I want to do single camera. In any case, I then did an episode of Anything But Love with the great Richard Lewis and the great Jamie Lee Curtis. I had these scenes where I was in love with Jamie Lee Curtis, which was very easy to do. And the woman who produced that, Marsha Brandwin was her name. I can't believe I got that name. Who was a great lady. She produced that show and then was Carol Burnett's producing partner. And I got a show called Carol and Company. And that was a comedy, and I got to work with her. And she was magnificent and lovely. And we had a great time, great time. And that was sort of we called it anthology. It's the A word. She used to call it the anthology, which was great. And we got to do a different genre of comedy.
Yeah,
each
no,
week.
yeah.
And
It was fairly short-lived, though, right?
Sadly, it was because her best friends, Burt Reynolds and Julie Andrews, we weren't getting great ratings. The show was good, but it wasn't great. But it could have been good. In fact, it could have been great. We had great writers, Peter Tolan. But it was very difficult to do in 23 minutes. You had to introduce characters, have a story, and then have an ending. It was very difficult each week. It was, in essence, the Twilight Zone of comedy.
Yeah.
Right.
And to put this on the timeline, I am at this time working for you, Ken. This is when Rich was doing Carol and Company. I was doing Comic Strip Live with Ken. Well, Rich, yeah. Now, I'm going to skate through a few things because, when Mad About You came and then you're really on the map.
Wait, hold on. Let me finish about Carol Burnett because it becomes interesting. They told her, this sucks. Go do what you do best. Well, they had never done sitcoms. Needless to say, Julie Andrews got one that Blake Edwards produced. That was 3 and off. And Burt Reynolds did a piece of an okay show. And she should never have let it go. However, they still wanted to do business with her. And I think they gave her an hour show, which she tried to duplicate what she used to do so brilliantly. It was a horror, because she tried to duplicate what she used to do great with that cast who I grew up on. I'm not going to duplicate them. It was horrible. And I once met Harvey Korman. I said, I don't want to be Harvey Korman. I want to do something new. And I once met Harvey Korman. He goes, the hell's wrong with being Harvey Korman? And I no.
That's not what I meant, sir. Yes.
I said, I learned from you. Let me be. In any case, that was off in 6. However, I got to work with Marty Short and Bernadette Peters again, and Chris Reeve again, and it was great. It was great. I had a sword fighting scene with Christopher Reeve.
With Chris Reeve.
Wow. That's an interesting career that you have, that you've been able to go from, sketch comedy to sitcoms to a show like that to the procedural, and then go on to feature films as well. I mean, you were jumping back.
I did an opera. I did an opera.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's very unique for a person. You were not pigeonholed, and somebody said, "Oh, he's a television actor," right?
Because when I was young, Carol O'Connor and Adam West famously said, I do not want to be typecast. I'm not Archie Bunker. I'm not Batman. Adam West was wrong. Carol O'Connor tried to be right, was a little bit right, but he was always Archie Bunker. I never even wanted to get there. And when I was doing Spin City, everybody said, oh, you're going to be the breakout character. You're going to be that. And that to me was made my skin crawl.
Well,
I wanted to just do everything.
That's pivotal because you established yourself in Mad About You, but then Spin City, you are a regular and it's being watched and so on. So when I would tell people, like a girl on a date, I know this guy from that's on Spin City, Richard Kind. Oh, God, I love him. You had created an awareness with Spin City.
Thank you. Two things.
You became marketable.
Did I get you laid, and does she have a sister?
Yes, and I have never got far enough to know.
Right, okay.
But you created, I'm not going to call it a brand, but you became recognizable. And you are recognizable, Richard. I mean, even when you say, it was horrible. I mean, there are kindisms, right? There just are. But that makes you very
Gary, you're not right.
This is the third time, by the way. I don't know how many times we're going to give you to be wrong, Gary.
Gary, amongst my friends, I am imitatable and okay, I have these kind of... I don't for the world. And I'll tell you something. I once auditioned for a role and it was being directed by a good friend of mine who had never directed me. And I came in with an interpretation that was correct. And Jace wanted me to change it and be Richard Kind. And it was an hour. It was an hour show. And he wanted, no, give me this, give me that. He was so wrong that I know I didn't get the part. And who did, who's a magnificent actor and a great guy, Saul Rubinek, who does not have Richard Kind-isms and doesn't go goofy like that. He did it the way that he should, like an actor should in an hour show, and made it real. But Jace wanted it the way that, how I know Richard Kind. Granted, what's it called? When you know somebody and you get a part because you know them.
Nepotism kind of a thing?
Nepotism or go networking at a party, that works sometimes, maybe get you through the door, but don't use that director to get yourself in the door and then prove you can do the part. I did it the way that it should be done. He directed me like, this is what I have in mind for Richard Kind, and like that. And I didn't get it.
Here's a perfect example. And before we run out of time, I got all
the time in the world if we're talking about me, Gary.
I love you as Andy on Curb. And that's a perfect example of that's not you. That's a character that just fits just right.
It does, but it's me being annoying. I know how I can be
it's you
annoying.
Being annoying.
But that's improv skills, right?
That's acting credit.
That's absolutely improv skills. Absolutely.
Because you don't play Andy to be funny. Andy is very earnest. Andy is very...
Okay, again, you're wrong. All I want is funny.
I got to get a new co-host.
Andy gets laughs, but you don't play him for laughs.
No, that's true. That's not the nature of the show. It's a genre unto itself.
Yeah.
But God knows I play him to be funny. But
no, he is funny. He is funny, but he's not a jokester. I'm going to get myself out of this because I love the character, and I don't think of you when I see Andy.
I'm surprised. I'm glad. I'm surprised. He is, by all means, he is a character, and I am not that guy. I'm much more forceful. But when I want to tap into my obnoxious...
Well,
do you watch yourself in movies and TV shows?
I do not.
Really?
I never do. I can't. I'll tell you what I do, though, Kem. I will ask for a replay of the scene while I'm on set, but without the headphones. I don't want to hear what I sound. I hate my voice.
Oh, my.
And I don't believe my voice all the time. So I will just see my face, and I know what I'm saying. And if I believe what I see on film, then I'm okay. But sometimes...
So you won't go see a movie... I mean, the other movie that I think I just love, A Serious Man.
Love A Serious Man.
Did you ever see the movie? You're in it.
I have. I've seen it twice.
Brilliant.
It's a movie that I watch, that I absolutely love, and I cringe when I see me. But you know what? I'm pretty good in that movie.
Yeah, damn good. Yeah. And what about your kids? They watch you? They watch your movies?
No, they do not.
Okay.
My son only recently has seen Curb Your Enthusiasm. Have either of you guys seen Red Oaks?
No, I have not.
No, I have not.
No. I really encourage you and your listeners, watch Red Oaks.
Well, where is it?
Watch it.
Where
Not
is it?
for me. It's a great, great show.
Where
it's
is
on
it?
Amazon.
Oh, Amazon.
They knew what a great show they had, but Amazon couldn't sell a TV show until Mrs. Maisel. This was on before, or That Man in the Castle. This is a superior, not a good show. This is superior entertainment.
I will check it out without question.
All right,
you guys, it's superior. You're gonna love it.
You derailed my inquiry in Curb. Now, did that come through Jeff initially then? Jeff Darling?
Yes, I will tell you how. Because it's a fun story.
Okay.
They needed somebody for Cousin Annie. Now, this was early on in this show, and Jeff suggested me. And Larry at the time said, no, he's too famous. And every famous person that they had on the show played themselves, with the exception of Ed Asner, who died in the episode. And he only changed the name because he didn't want people to think that Ed Asner had died. So everybody in the show played themselves, and he thought that I was too famous to play a character. And I told Jeff, assure him, I am not. And he went back. They had auditioned some people. They ended up with me, and I did the job. Now, guess how many episodes up until last year I had done?
10.
20.
4, and one of them was a two-parter. I had done only 4, but I make an impression, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then last year, I will tell you, because of the very sad circumstance that Super Dave had passed away,
Right.
they needed a foil for something,
Right.
and I loved him. Bob, he was just
Well, I did a Curb, and he was in it, and I was just fascinated by it.
Yes, he's wonderful, and
He was wonderful.
so
Well,
he passed away, and so I did 3. So in essence, I did 7, and then this year I'm in 1. So I've done a total of 8 over 10.
Well, it certainly seems like more because you're such a presence. But again, this does go back because it's a perfect example, in my view, of you as a reactive improviser. Because Andy is very reactive.
Very.
I mean, and as you know, and most people I think know now, it's improvised script based on an outline.
I say, imagine O. Henry writing a short story, and then you read it, and then say, "Okay, go improvise it." You know,
Right.
that's what it is. And also, it's very easy with Larry, because if I don't have the words, I go, "Are you kidding? What are you talking about? Come on. Are you serious?" And then maybe some words will come to me, and I go, "What are you talking about? What is in your head? Why are you acting like that?" That's all I have to say.
That's the stall, huh? That's the stall.
That's
It
the
is.
stuff.
And we have a contentious relationship, which I adore.
It's
And
charming.
I base it a little bit on, he and Richard Lewis went to camp together. Well, Larry and I grew up as cousins. Now, not in real life, but Richard.
Right.
And
That's the backstory.
I just use it as the same thing. We went to camp together, but we were cousins. So that's how I use it.
Richard, what's the dumbest questions you get? You must. I know you do these podcasts. Are these the dumbest? And I don't even know if there's an answer to that question. I mean, I think to myself, because I'm a director, I get questions.
Is Larry really like what he is on the TV show? That's the dumbest.
Okay, yeah.
I get that one.
So I get that, but they're from Pushy Jews. Then I get what's your favorite role?
Right.
I don't have one, but and then what's a stupid question is, what role do I want to play? Now that's a stupid question. However, there is one role that I want to.
Okay, so it's not
I'm
a
glad
stupid
you asked
question.
it.
What is that role?
There is I would love to do Roy Cohn in Angels in America.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's what, because you see, you guys haven't seen me on stage. I got nominated for a Tony.
I was just going to bring that up, Richard.
Yeah.
Because
I did an Odette's play, which Odette's son, who of course lived off of, he's a therapist out near San Francisco. But
The Big Knife.
Pardon me?
The Big Knife.
The Big Knife. And he came out to see the show. He wasn't that thrilled with the production. And not to pat my back, but he was really thrilled with what I did. And I was vicious, horrible in that role. I mean, there was nothing funny, nothing at all. I've had Broadway producers come up and just say, "Man, you were just great. You were great. Oh my God." I mean, it was somewhat memorable. And the play is good, not great. And then I went back and saw Rod Steiger in the movie, which is a memorable role, but God, he was awful. I mean, he overacted in a bad way. I overreacted. I'm being really honest. I overacted in a big way. But then again, I was on stage, so I could be huge because it's a theater. He was huge, but on film. I have learned how to be huge on film, and it's a difference. On stage, you're a megaphone. You're this, and you have to take it. But on film, you're big, and you have to bring it in. And Steiger kept it out here. He kept it wide. It was huge. But I now know how to be huge.
But Richard, I've admired so many things that you know. I love you, and I'm a fan, and at every level, and as a human being, it means the world to us that you found an hour to hang out with us tonight.
And my pleasure, because I'm going to tell you, Gary.
Yes.
I adore you. For some reason, in a sort of puppy dog way, when we were at Northwestern, I just took a great liking to you. And
You've always been kind to me.
but I swear to God.
But he hasn't gotten one thing right about you so far.
Yeah, but nor are you the.
But it's all out of love.
But I really do adore you and loved watching you on stage, and wish that you had always brought your persona that I knew you in life to stage, because I think that you do shine. And that
Harry is very good.
Well, you're kind.
You are.
Well,
Yeah.
you're kind and you're kind. Well, Richard, sincerely, thank you so much. I'm flattered, and I will play this for all my friends, what you just said. In fact,
I'm going to cut that out.
Can you cut out that little soundbite right
That's
there?
Get it out of there.
That's my new ringtone. So anyway, Richard, thank you. Go back.
Thank you,
live
thank you,
an hour
Richard.
later for you in New York.
I want to talk a little more. Can we talk, Ken?
I'd
You
love
guys-
to.
You
Oh, that'd be
guys
great.
go. I'm going to say goodbye to our people here, our watchers and our listeners. Thank you so much for watching the Gary.
We're going to
and
get
Ken Show.
more
You can
thoughts
find us-
on masturbation from Richard
Yeah,
Kind right
also
after this.
Right. Oh, look forward.
Yeah.
You can find us on DB&A Network, which is streaming television. I think we're on about midnight East Coast time. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple iTunes, Spotify, as well as our own YouTube channel. So find us on all those various different platforms. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Gary and Ken Show.
Thanks. Bye-bye.